morning, colleagues. Good morning, Minister. Minister, I assure you we were ready to start at 11, but our colleagues today asked that we kick the can down the road, so we are here now.
Crispin, and good morning to all members of the media. I am with DDG Munyela and Mr. Masocha, who are subject matter specialists, who will help me with some of the questions. Good morning to members of the media, esteemed colleagues and fellow citizens. Please allow me to extend a very warm welcome to you all at our headquarters, the OR Tambo building. We have invited you today so we may be able to brief you and the people of South Africa on the progress made thus far in our one-year-long historic South African presidency of the G20. We are now in the 6th month, or halfway into South Africa's G20 presidency. A historic responsibility was assumed on the 1st of December 2024. As the first African nation to lead this bloc, we remain steadfast in our commitment to advancing a world grounded in solidarity, equality, sustainability, albeit in a volatile and polarized geopolitical climate. Progress report of the 5 months of purposeful leadership. The technical working groups, since officially assuming the G20 presidency on the 1st December 2024, South Africa has convened 51 meetings across all the Sherpa tracks and finance track working groups, including the 3 task forces established by our presidency. These meetings discussed some of the most important and urgent challenges facing the global community, reflecting on our strong determination to seek sustainable and innovative solutions through dialogue, collaboration, and cooperation. The ongoing G20 discussions are aimed at advancing South Africa's overarching priorities, namely strengthening disaster resilience and response, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for a just energy transition, harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and sustainable development. You will recall that our task forces are focusing on inclusive economic growth, industrialization, employment, and reduced inequality, food security and reduced inequality, and artificial intelligence, data governance, innovations for sustainable development. Throughout the working groups, we are also championing broader and cross-cutting issues, such as the reform of multilateral trading systems and the international financial architecture, including strengthening of multilateral development banks, seeking solutions to addressing climate change, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, advocating for gender equality, pursuing enhanced international tax cooperation, and addressing illicit financial flows, exploring ways to increase the predictability, scale, and flows of climate finance, which is critical to enable the just transition and mitigation and adaptation efforts. From the recent meetings, it is important to note that whilst there are debates on some issues as to be expected in multilateral arrangements, there is still overwhelming support for South Africa's priorities by G20 members. Furthermore, when our G20 Sherpa briefing, the United Nations General Assembly in New York, on our G20 priorities in March 2025, the meeting also expressed strong support for our G20 presidency agenda. G20 A20 review. At the 2024 Rio de Janeiro Summit, G20 leaders made a commitment to evaluate the G20 first full cycle of presidencies under South Africa's presidency, and with full respect to the principles and agreed at the Cairns Summit in 2011, provide recommendations to the second cycle, including a roadmap for future presidencies. They also reiterated their ambitions for G20 to remain the premier forum for international economic cooperation. In this spirit, South Africa's G20 presidency is championing a review G20 A20 that reflects on the G20's achievements and working methods since 2008 as proposed leaders level outcome. This review was welcomed by the G20 members at the first Sherpa meeting in Sandton in December 2024. Further, the G20 review roadmap was presented at the second Sherpa's meeting that took place in early April 2025. The G20 review will reflect on the diverse national views of G20 members and permanent guest countries, including through a survey, a dedicated discussion at the third G20 Sherpa meeting in June, and written findings of the survey. The G20 leaders underscore the need to reform international systems of global governance, inclusive of the international financial architecture, the multilateral trading system, and the multilateral development banks. Further stress the need to reform the United Nations to make it fit for purpose and relevant to the current international reality. This includes the Security Council. Noted with concern the slow progress being made in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs of the 2030 Agenda. To this end, the meeting stressed on the need for urgent actions to accelerate efforts and reaffirm the G20's strong commitment to the SDGs in line with the theme, solidarity, equality, and sustainability. In addition, at the second G20 Sherpa meeting held in April 2025, many delegations, including South Africa, expressed serious concerns about the resurgence of protectionism and unilateral measures that undermine multilateral trading systems, and reaffirm the need for collective action to honor and strengthen our WTO commitments, including the principle of special and differential treatment, while advancing necessary reforms. Resolve trade disputes through constructive dialogue and established mechanisms. Ensure trade policies actively support sustainable development objectives, particularly Africa's industrialization and transition to a value-added production at source. An inclusive and a people-centered G20. The majority of the 15 official G20 engagement groups have been constituted, having defined their priorities and are working on their deliverables. We have also had several consultative engagements with local and international civil society organizations around the hosting of the second G20 Social Summit. The first such groups and social summit are critical to ensure that the G20 agenda is more democratic and inclusive and comprehensive, and that those people who are impacted by the decisions of the G20 are here. At the forthcoming Sherpa meeting to be held in the last week of June 2025 in Sun City, in the Northwest Province, engagement groups will have the opportunity to make their formal submissions to the G20 on issues they propose for inclusion in the G20 Leaders Declarations to be negotiated and adopted by leaders in November 2025. In the current geopolitical and geo-economic global headwinds, there are high expectations on South Africa to deliver positive outcomes, advance innovative solutions to global challenges, and rebuild the trust of the international community in the G20. Cultural diplomacy, Africa's core. I am proud to announce the release on the 9th of May of Africa's Core, a song that embodies and reflects the spirit of Ubuntu, our African identity, and G20's presidency mission. This anthem, now streaming globally, it's a reminder that culture and our common humanity unite us even as we debate and sometimes disagree on policies. I invite all citizens to listen, share, and let this message of hope to resonate in all communities across across South Africa, the African continent, and the globe. The road ahead, priorities for action. Over the next few months, until 7 November 2025, the Sherpa and Finance Track working groups will continue to meet to discuss their priorities and deliverables and negotiate and issue ministerial declarations. The third Sherpa meeting, to be held from the 25th to the 27th of June 2025, is expected to further discuss geopolitical issues and the contribution of the G20 to the global development agenda and in fostering equitable global governance. Chairs of the 15 G20 engagement groups will also be invited to participate and report on their progress at the third Sherpa meeting. We are also planning to host two important meetings outside South Africa. Firstly, a G20 Compact with Africa meeting in Addis Ababa in July 2025. You will recall that during our presidency, we are pursuing a broadened and effective G20 Compact with Africa, which includes increasing number of participating African Union members. Secondly, we will host the second G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in New York in September 2025 on the margins of the United Nations General Assembly High-Level Week. This will be the second time ever that a G20 meeting is held at the United Nations after the Brazil historic hosting of the same meeting last year. The United Nations, at the core of which is the General Assembly, with its universal representation where every country participates on an equal footing, is and will remain the chief deliberative and policy-making and representative organ of the global community of nations. Therefore, the work we do in the G20 and informal grouping seeks to support, contribute, and reinforce already existing processes of the United Nations and its organs in a complementary manner. Finally, we are undertaking logistical preparations for the hosting of the Leaders Summit in Johannesburg in November 2025. As you can imagine, the summit is a major project requiring significant planning, coordination, and project management. We have put together an excellent team from across government and the private sector to oversee and implement this successful summit. We are also glad to be partnering with the Gauteng City region, including the city of Johannesburg, to prepare for this summit. We believe that we are on track. The people of South Africa, this presidency is yours, is your platform. Engage with it, own it, and hold us accountable. Progress is not just defined by the meetings or by the number of documents we deliver. Progress is defined by finding concrete and collective solutions to our challenges, and by how we improve the lives of all citizens, in particular the most vulnerable and the most needy. From Johannesburg to Rio de Janeiro, to Washington, to Abuja, the impacts and the outcomes of the G20 must be felt in the streets of such cities and to the local communities of the world. We remain guided by the wisdom of Madiba, who taught us that it is in your hands to create a better world for all living beings. I thank you. Taking one by one.
Okay, colleagues, thank you, Minister, for the comprehensive statement. We now open for deliberations, row of 5, to start off with. Okay, so let me start from the back coming towards the front. Just remember to say to the media house that you're from.
Yeah, hello, I'm Clement from AFP News Agency. My question is about the statement Friday on the situation of those people departing the country. The statement mentioned the principle of non-refoulement. I assume because we enter uncharted territory with this situation. Will it mean that if those people departing were willing to come back in the country in spite of the so-called persecution? Will they be allowed to come back?
Vitaly Marx from Tass News Agency. Minister, thank you very much. Did South Africa extend an invitation for the leaders of the G20 countries to participate in the summit in November, Johannesburg, including the president of Russia? And also, how many countries not member of G20 invited to participate in the Johannesburg summit? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Amanda Koza from News 24. I have a few questions. To be direct, have you received any indication from US President Donald Trump whether he'll be attending the G20 Leaders Summit in November? And then I've been partly covered by the citizenship question. On the vetting, who vetted the 49 Afrikaner refugees? When did the vetting take place? Did they provide proof to the government on this unjust racial discrimination that they allege is happening? Thank you.
Gosnati Shazi from Power FM News. I've been partially covered by my colleagues. My questions were an attendance question. Now, a lot has been said about Donald Trump. He's made various threats, but he hasn't come on a public platform to say that he's not coming to the G20. So, as things stand, will the US president be attending? And the second one is, of course, an ICC warrant of arrest has been issued against Vladimir Putin. He did not attend the 2023 BRICS Summit, except he attended virtually. Will he be on South African shores in November? Thank you very much.
Those are our questions, Minister.
Yeah, thank you. We have to reiterate that from the perspective of the South African government, the South Africans who departed yesterday, in terms of the executive order that define them as oh, I'm just told. Yeah, thank you very much. From the perspective of the South African government, in terms of the executive orders that have defined the refugees, the South Africans as refugees, we have stated in the statement we issued on Friday that in line with the international definition, they do not qualify for that status according to us. And there is no persecution of white Afrikaner South Africans in South Africa. This has been proven by a number of statistics in our country, including the police reports, which don't back that assertion of persecution of white South Africans on the basis of their race. The crime that we have in South Africa affects everyone, irrespective of race and irrespective of gender. There is a more pronounced crime that we are dealing with. Sorry for that. Which the president has declared as a pandemic, which is the crime against gender-based violence, which is a societal challenge that we have to respond to. But there is no data at all that backs that there is persecution of white South Africans or white Afrikaners, to be more particular, who are farmers. And the police statistics which they are prepared to share and release don't back it. In fact, more farm dwellers are also affected by crime. And also white farmers do get affected by crime, just like any other South Africans who do get affected by crime. So this is not factual, it is without basis. whether they have been vetted. There has been a process that involved the South African Police Service in that with regards to the South Africans who have left, checking all their criminal records and all the necessary procedures that they had to undergo. As I've said already earlier on, they can't provide any proof of any prosecution because there's of any persecution because there's none. There is no any form of persecution to white South Africans or to African South Africans. And we are glad that a number of organizations, even from Afrikaner structures, have denounced this so-called persecution. They have stated that where there are challenges, there are platforms to resolve them within the South African context, which makes this a domestic issue. Our legislation provides sufficient platforms for any issue to be ventilated in that regard. And white South Africans, including Afrikaners, have voiced their views in this regard. And we welcome that as the government of South Africa, and we encourage more of such engagements and platforms to clarify in the world stage this disinformation that has now taken root. With regards to the Leaders Summit, who has been invited to participate, the G20 is for all members of the G20. And the leaders of the G20, they are all expected or they are invited to attend. And obviously, the US President, as a member state of the G20, will be invited. But it's up to the US whether they attend or not the G20 in South Africa, in the Leaders Summit. As you are aware, with the various meetings with the foreign ministers, the US was represented by Charge d'Affaires, but there has since been a lot of engagements where the US was represented at a high level. You will have seen the meeting in Washington where the Treasury was represented by the Secretary in relations to that platform, Mr. Bassett, who had engagement with Minister Godongwan. So they have participated in some of the G20 meetings. So as to whether the US President will attend the Leaders Summit in Johannesburg, we will leave it to the US government to confirm his attendance or his non-attendance. With regards to the President of Russia, you will remember that he didn't attend the Brazil Summit. Russia was represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Brazil, and I think also in the previous one. So we will want to continue in that context, and there were reasons at that level at that time. So we are looking forward to continue in that context, but Russia will participate and be represented in the Leaders Summit. With regards to I think I have answered all the questions. If they want to come back or not, or the invited countries, the 20, all the G20 members are invited. The G20 is for its members, so all of them are invited. But as South Africa, we have got a level of discretion to extend an invite to other countries, but this must be some kind of consensus also by the member countries of the G20. And we have extended an invite to African countries, the 5 big economies in the continent: Egypt, Nigeria, Algeria, Ethiopia, and obviously Angola as the chair of the AU. We have also extended an invite to other countries that had participated in Brazil to continue to participate. Countries like Singapore, Ireland, Netherlands, Norway, Spain, the United Arab Emirates. There are also a number of UN agencies that will also participate at that level. So South Africa will continue with that tradition, but if there's any extension of any invite to any further country, the president consult with the G20 members, and if agreed upon, then we extend the invite. So these are the ones that thus far have been agreed upon. Are these all the ones? The first question. Oh, yes. At this stage, I think that will be an issue obviously for us and Home Affairs to deal with. We have not yet applied it. We did mention it in the statement, but it's South Africans who have made their own choice in terms of their rights to go to any other country, and in this regards to the United States of America. So at this stage, the South African government will apply its mind in regards to that matter. Thank you. Oh.
Right. Let's start with Sophie, Natasha, Sophie, Vuyo, Natasha, so number 4 and 5.
Thank you. Sophie Mkwena from the SABC. Minister, you spoke about the G20 meeting on the margins of UNGA in September in the United States of America. Perhaps can you tell us how far are the preparations for President Ramaphosa and President Trump's meeting, as it was announced by the President during the telephone discussion with President Trump that he has extended an invitation to President Ramaphosa to visit US where they can meet. And then secondly, the issue of agreeing on a text has become problematic for the G20 since the start of the war in Ukraine. How optimistic are you that in November the leaders will agree on a text? As we've seen these other meetings, there seems to be no agreement on the text of the meeting. And finally, there are reports that President Vladimir Putin and President Zelensky are likely going to meet in Turkey this week as part of the attempts to ensure that the ceasefire in Ukraine. The president met President Zelensky, he spoke to President Putin. Do you have any latest update in terms of attempts to bring peace in Ukraine? Thank you.
Vuyombogo, Newsroom Africa. How far, Minister, is the process of appointing an ambassador to the United States of America, and how far has Mr. Jonas gone in his task? Has he started engaging with Americans?
Thank you. Natasha Marion from the Financial Mail. Thank you, Minister. This is just a follow-up question. You said that the US has been involved in certain groups around the G20. Is that only select groups? Can you tell us which groups, or are they not involved more broadly as the other countries are? And I've been covered by Vuyo on the ambassador's question and Mr. Jonas, but I wanted to add to that. Does Mr. Jonas's appointment negate the need for an ambassador in the short term, at least, or the short or medium term? Thank you.
Minister. Tommy from China ST Daily. China and the United States have made significant progress on trade negotiation in Geneva yesterday. What's Minister's comment on this? Are there any progress have been made on trade negotiation between United States and South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Aviwe from ENCA. Just a sense of your discussions with the US. What do they say then? What's their response when you tell them that there's no persecution of white farmers? How do they respond to what you present to them in your discussions?
Turkmen Terzi, Turkish Minute. Minister, do you think that India-Pakistan conflict could become like Ukraine-Russia war? Because the Crimea was very central in this war, and now Pakistan is very important for China to access Arabian Sea and the Red Sea. Now is external forces also involved. India using mainly Israeli drones, and Pakistan uses Turkish drones. So what is your position on this conflict as a G20 and BRICS member? Thank you.
That's all the questions, Minister.
Yeah, no, thank you. The first question from Sophie with regards to the working visit of President Ramaphosa to the US. I can state that it's at an advanced stage. The presidency, I believe, will soon announce the dates and when the engagement is going to happen. I can only say that it's at an advanced stage. With regards to whether we are confident that the text will be agreed upon, multilateral platforms by their nature are contested terrains. At the UN, EU, African Union, and the G20 is no exception. There is contestation with regards to the issues of the G20, including what will end up being part of the declarations of the various working groups. But we find solace in the fact that most of the working groups do reach consensus, because the G20 is a consensus-based organization. And we're also looking forward that the Leaders Summit will also be able to reach consensus on the declaration. With regards to whether there is any new update with regards to the Russia and Ukraine, no, at this stage we don't have any new update except the fact that our security advisor in the presidency and also our DG continue to be seized with the matter of the various engagements that are happening on this issue. They continue to participate and be relevant. We were also represented on Friday at the Victory Parade by the Minister of Defense, Minister Angie Mutsecha, in Moscow. With regards to the appointment of the ambassador, Vuyo, and also which is the same question as Natasha, whether it negates or when are we going to appoint an ambassador. No, it doesn't negate. The appointment of the special envoy does not negate the need to appoint an ambassador. It is still necessary that we must appoint an ambassador, but we need to do so having assessed the whole terrain and the environment with regards to the bilateral trade relations and also the trade relations between South Africa and the US, and that is what we are currently doing. So we will soon, when the president is ready, he will definitely appoint an ambassador. But we wanted first the special envoy to lay the ground, to build the terrain that will help us to navigate these uncharted waters that the country is in. So at the right time, the ambassador to the US will be appointed. With regards to the China and US U.S. progress in the trade negotiations. As South Africa, we have always maintained that there should not be any unilateralism in relations to trade, but where there are challenges, countries must engage, they must meet, have engagements and dialogue. And I think that is what China and the US are doing, which they have done in Geneva. It's a welcome development that there must be engagement. These are the two biggest economies in the world. So it is important that they engage, they find a solution, because a solution for the two countries will be solutions for bilateral trade for all countries of the world, also for trade, but also will also help to affirm the institutions of the WTO in terms of, in relations to trade. So it is important that they must talk, they must engage, and that they must find the solutions. It is in the interest of the whole globe, including ourselves as South Africa. So we welcome that discussion. What does the US say when we say there are no persecution? They say they have got executive order that they have to implement, and that according to them, there is persecution, as we hear from time to time, that bad things are happening in our country. So, and we continue to state that there are no bad things that are targeting white people with any intentions, particularly African farmers in South Africa. We do not have that, and that is the position of the South African government, that there is no such persecution. And we are glad that African communities and leaders are also coming out to state that there is no such. Where there are challenges, there are platforms in our country to be resolved. And we are not saying there are no challenges in South Africa. Like in any other country in the world, there's no country that does not have challenges and issues that arise from time to time. So even our challenges are happening within the context of any other country having challenges which are domestic challenges, which should be handled by the government of the day that has been voted for by the people of South Africa, in line with the Constitution of the Republic. The issue related to India and Pakistan, we have stated that we call for a ceasefire, for the de-escalation of the conflict, for both parties to negotiate, to find a peaceful settlement to this matter, so that it does not escalate into a huge conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We have questions on online platform. One from Alex, Germany, Trade and Invest. He says, will the SA Investment Conference take part during the G20 Leaders Summit? If yes, when? Then I think there are a number of questions we've already dealt with regards to the refugee process. The second question is from Peter Fabricus from the Daily Maverick and ISS. And the question is, Defense Minister Angie Motshekga attended the victory parade in Moscow last week. Was that cleared by the GNU partners and your department? And what does it say about SA relations with Russia? And I see there's a hand in the room. Okay. It's fine, sorry. I thought it was something, because you're behind there with a camera, so, yeah. So those are the questions, Minister. Then we'll come back in the room for the last round after Minister's responded to this.
Maybe let's allow Masocha and listen if there's anything. I think Masocha, there is the one of Natasha in relations to which meetings the US participated in and all that.
Do you want to come here, Masocha?
We can, yeah, you can come here. Listen, maybe on this one of the US whether they've told us in detail about the campaign.
Thank you very much, Minister. Good afternoon, colleagues from the media. My name is Masocha Mguni. I'm the G20 overall project coordinator in the Sherpa track, working with the G20 Sherpa and Sue Sherpa. To respond to the question regarding the participation by the US in the G20 working group meetings. Firstly, just to underscore that the US is part of the G20 Troika, comprised of Brazil as the previous president, South Africa, the current president, and the US, which is the incoming G20 president next year. So there is a dynamic cooperation within the Troika on the organization of work. In actual fact, the first in-person G20 Troika at Sherpa level took place in Washington, D.C. In April. Regarding the participation of the U.S. in the working group of the G20, there are 15 working groups in total, and of course the U.S. Does participate in these meetings. Of course, there may be issues in some of the working groups that they may feel strongly about, but that does not in any way hinder their participation and also the contribution that they make in this meeting. So that is how I would respond to that question. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Just on the issue of whether the US has shared with us information regarding the 49, and I must say, Minister, I'm very happy to see that when the media uses the word refugees, they put it in quotes because it's a contested term, as Minister was articulating. We don't regard them as refugees. But just to make the point that the application for someone to be considered a refugee in this context is treated as confidential between the applicant and the country they are applying to, so they wouldn't be at liberty to share with us the details thereof. That's how this matter is prosecuted. In fact, I noticed yesterday when the media tried to speak to these individuals at the airport, they received a no comment response. And what they were told was that when they arrive today in Washington, there's likely to be a press briefing by this 49. But Minister has articulated the position of South Africa on this group. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. The issue of the participation of Minister Motshekga at the Victory Parade and whether we have got the permission of the GNU or was the GNU partners consulted. Firstly, I must state that within the GNU and the government itself, it is run in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. Government is run with the head of state as the president of the Republic. So foreign travel to represent the president or the government of the Republic of South Africa is approved and assigned by the president as mandated by the Constitution. And Minister Motshekga was representing the government of the Republic of South Africa on behalf of President Ramaphosa. I have also represented President Ramaphosa on many international platforms. And there have been many other ministers who have represented the government or the president in many international platforms. So our participation in the Victory Parade is in line with the good bilateral relations that we enjoy with Russia. So there is nothing untoward which is unconstitutional or not in line with the South Africa's constitution for us to participate in that platform. And I must state this, I thanked our colleagues this morning in the IMC, which is running the G20, which includes some of the colleagues who comes from the opposition parties in the past, who are now part of the government or the GNU, that in the Department of International Relations, we have not received any report that the ministers of the government, as mandated by the Constitution and by the National Interest Document and the South Africa's mandating position, have spoken out of 10 or outside the mandate of the government of the Republic of South Africa. We have not had any such experience. All ministers, even outside the G20, all the ministers that we have sent to various forums across the globe, whether it's UN, whether it's COP30, whatever platform you may think about, including to bilateral trade engagements or bilateral meetings, BNCs, working visits, they have always spoken in line with the mandate of the government, and we really want to thank them, and we appreciate this continued cooperation in this regard. Yeah, I think those were the questions, unless I missed anyone. Yeah.
Last one.
Oh.
Last one, colleagues. Right, responded to your questions. Confidential basis, that's the answer. Yeah, those three.
Good morning, Minister. This is Gert van der Westhuizen from Netwerk 24. I just want to know, one gets the idea that America is doing its level best to undermine South Africa's presidency of the G20. They haven't sent ministers to two of the previous meetings. Donald Trump there were indications that he's not going to attend. And I think this latest thing with the so-called refugees as well, it tarnishes South Africa's image. Do you think there is such a move underway to undermine our presidency of the G20? And would you say this refugee thing tarnishes our image? And then the last question, the President said that the government will speak to the Joburg Metro Council about the renaming of Santon Drive to Lila Carlet Avenue. Has there been any developments in that case?
Morning, my name is Tembi Lektele with Bloomberg News. Just on the envoy, Mr. Mcebisi Jonas, can you say anything more about the trade deal that the president initially touted? There's been talk that the DTIC has been working on something which would include critical minerals. There's mention of the Starlink deal with Elon Musk. Is there anything that you can offer on that trade deal, and maybe timelines as to when it might be presented to the US government? Would it be presented by the envoy or the president himself, if such a meeting were to happen between the two leaders? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As I've said earlier on, is that the G20 is a member country organization, and all the 20 members of the G20 are equally important. So the G20 is proceeding in South Africa, and up to so far, as I've said, is going very well. In all the working groups, there are discussions, we have got declarations, we have got outcomes, and that is what we want to see, and we will continue in that regard. The US has got the right to decide to participate in any of the G20 meetings or not to participate as a member state of the G20. But South Africa welcomes all the members of the G20 to participate. And we think that with the participation of all the members of the G20, it does not diminish or undermine the impact that the G20 will make in the various multilateral platforms. Because the majority of the members are participating, we are proceeding, the agenda is being supported by the majority members of the G20. So we are on course to host the Leaders Summit in November, and as I have given the detailed breakdown of all the meetings, they are all on course and they are going very well. There is outcomes, there is discussions, and we are looking forward to conclude our presidency at the culmination of the summit in November 2025. With regards to the Lela Khalid Drive sentencing, the city of Johannesburg is seized with the matter, and they are following their own internal procedures and processes. We continue to engage with all local governments across the country. SALGA, we had a meeting with them, because any other activity that has got a diplomatic and international relations perspective, DERCO has got a responsibility to coordinate, to engage, and play a role, and we do so also with the city of Johannesburg. With regards to the trade deal that is in relation, there is, as you will remember during my press briefing with Minister Tao, we did state that the executive orders and the tariffs do nullify what is in the preferential trade deal that is already existing in AGOA. So there is a need for South Africa government and the US government to engage. And trade and industry is seized with the matter. And as I've said earlier on, preparations are at an advanced stage for the working visit of President Ramaphosa, which will further amplify and cement this engagement. But the DTIC is seized with this matter. The special envoy is also seized with the matter of the resetting of the bilateral relations between the US and South Africa, which will obviously also include trade-related matters. So there is ongoing work in this regard, and at the right time, we will be able to give the clear details to the people of South Africa as and when such is concluded and the process is underway. I'm not sure if I forgot any. Thank you very much for being here. It has been a very love and peace Monday. Very good press briefing.
I see President.
Because it's a love and peace Monday.
Yes, yes.
We will use our discretion to allow.
It's a real love and peace Monday. Even in Ivory Coast, I see President Ramaphosa is sitting next to President Kagame, and the president indicated that there are no issues between the two leaders. Has South Africa been able to resolve that small onion tension? Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Sophie. As you will remember, from our side, there was no issue. It was an unprovoked outburst that happened in the public, and South Africa continued to maintain diplomatic engagement with Rwanda. Even communication that has continued to happen, and we continue to engage, and we look forward to continue to engage with Rwanda at that bilateral level. Whatever issues that exist between the two countries must be engaged at a diplomatic level in a mutual, beneficial and respectful way between the two countries. And that has always been our attitude. We will continue in that regard. Indeed, the president is in Ivory Coast for the CEO's conference that is happening, and to continue to deepen our good bilateral relations with the people of Ivory Coast. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes our press conference for today. And with that, Minister, we can take leave.